Good morning. So it is the week before exams, so we've got a week of no classes that we can use just to revise for the exam period. I've got 6 exams this semester as opposed to 8 exams last semester. Yeah, I'm just going to spend today studying, really. We actually, Melbourne came out of lockdown yesterday, so I'm going to have to try and balance being social and study, which is going to be a bit annoying after being in lockdown for quite a few months. It's, you get a bit fatigued. I've got a plan. I'm going to do as much Anki as I can, not just from this semester, but also from last semester, because the exams are actually cumulative. We're assessed not just on what we learnt this sem, but last sem is it's sort of a year-long subject. So I think it's 217 lectures and seminars in total, which is quite a lot. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. It's going to be a lot of revision to do, but that's fine. I'm just going to go through the Anki, and I'm also going to go through the learning objectives. I'm going to rate them according to how much confidence I have in each of those, and that way I'll have a good overarching view of everything that I know and everything that I don't. So the exams aren't only cumulative, like I mentioned, but they're also long answer style questions. So 3-hour exams, and we get 4 questions. Now the questions can be split into subparts, and it's worth 30 marks each. So go around 45 minutes to write an essay response to those questions. Another difference between this semester and last semester is last semester we had, and the reason we had more exams, was each sort of subject, that being optical physics, biological systems, and visual functions. Each of those subjects had their own exam, so we had to write out these essay-style questions in response to those. This semester is a bit different, it's integrated. We've got 2 exams that both cover all 3 topics instead of 1 exam each. That just covers 1 topic. So it's going to be a bit more interesting. That's why I think doing practice questions is going to be a bit more important, because we need to tie in our understanding of optical physics, how the brain processes sight, and also the biology and histology and everything of the eye. But I'm very much looking forward to the exams being over. And on top of those exams, we also have competency exams. And those exams, thank God, they're multiple choice exams, but you need to reach a hurdle grade, which I think is 60% or something. And if you don't reach it, then you will have an opportunity to resit the exam. I'm not sure how many opportunities you get, but if you don't pass it, you can't matriculate onto OD2, so you have to repeat the subjects or repeat the year. So yeah, that's going to be what I'm doing today. I'm going to be just getting on some revision, and I'll bring you guys along for the exams, and we'll see how it goes. Alright, so how do you keep up with 217 lectures for these exams? Well, this is the way I plan on doing it. Here I've got my OneNote opened up, and this is where I keep all of my lecture slides. It's where I make notes during some of the practicals, and it's also where I've got a summary of different seminars and things. As you can see, these bottom 3 folders, I've got semester 1 and semester 2 subjects. So this is semester 1 of integrated ophthalmic sciences. This is semester 2 of the same subject, and I've combined semester 1 and 2 of our second subject, preclinical optometry, because in the first semester it was much smaller, and so I've sort of just added it onto the second semester, so I don't have 4 total folders, but 3 here. So these are our 3 sort of sub-subjects. You've got biological systems, optics, and visual functions, and within each you've got the lectures, the pracs, the tutorials, practorials, things like that. So if we open up these lectures, I've labeled them all. So LB lecture, biological systems 1, 2, 3, so on. And these are all of our lecture slides that I've put in. And if I've made any notes, I've added them here. Usually I don't make notes on the actual lecture slides. I don't find that useful. If I do need to make a note, it'll usually be to summarize a piece of information for something that is quite complicated. And there I'll go up to here in diagrams, and I'll sort of create these diagrams. So here you've got a diagram concerning all the ion channels of epithelium hydration within the cornea. And so this is a summary of a couple of lectures where I've summarized it and I've put it into one place, made it very visual so that I can see it a lot easier. But all right, so I've got the lectures here. Now each lecture, you've got a set of lecture objectives, and that's what the lecturer is aiming to teach you throughout the day. Now, because Optom is a lot of information, the way that I've sort of organized those objectives is I've put them all into a table here. I've got the number of the lecture on the very left column. I've got the title of the lecture, the next one, the lecturer that gives it, the associated pracs in the fourth column, and these are any pracs that we might have. So here, our very first lecture of the first semester was an introduction to the eyes. That's embryology, microscopy, and basic anatomy. And we had a associated practical, which was an eye dissection, which I also showed in the last vlog. And so these are all of the associated pracs. And then over here, we've got certain objectives. And these are the objectives that I've copied down from the slide onto here. And in the actual table themselves, I go through and I color grade them. So you can see most of these are green. This is the last semester. At the end of the year, just before exams, I'll actually go through, I'll color grade all the objectives, and red being the worst, green being the best. And if I find it very difficult, I'll work on it and I'll be able to see which ones I find difficult because they're all red or orange or yellow here. So I've done the same thing for all the subjects. So this is biological systems. Here we've got optical physics. Now between the objectives and the associated pracs, I have put challenges. I haven't really used that yet, apart from here, where I put in any questions that I'm not sure after the lecture. So for example, this is a question, are Schwalbe's contraction folds continuous with the pupillary rough? Which I go on later to sort of try and find the answer to. So this isn't how I study. This is how I keep track of my notes, and this is how I keep track of, at the end of the year, how I'm feeling in terms of all the lecture objectives for the actual exams. In terms of actual study throughout the year, I primarily use Anki, which is a very powerful cue card app. I've been doing it a lot of the time when I'm on the train to and from uni, and you'll see a couple of these up here. So there's a few of the cards that I've made. It's really good for memory retention and actual knowledge. Now, this is primarily just for the lectures, but optometry isn't just lectures. We do have a lot of pracs where we have to learn a lot of skills, how to use all the equipment that we've got. In terms of that, we can't really rely on this sort of a system to do well. And so I've got a different way of going about that, where it's mainly just practicing when you can, when you're allowed in. So I'm going to do some of those Anki I mentioned earlier. I'm going to go through and grade some of the lecture objectives that I've got, and then I'll see you guys on the flip side. First exam done. That was actually okay. It wasn't too difficult. The questions were fairly straightforward. The main difficulty was really just with the time. Next two exams are going to be a bit more interesting. So we've been given the actual topics that the exams are going to cover, and we have to prepare ourselves best towards those topics, and they're going to give us questions integrating all of the three streams specifically on those topics. So as an example, let's say one of the topics is pupils. Very straightforward, just the pupils. So you would address it from a biological systems standpoint, talking about all of the innovation towards the pupils, the muscles involved with pupil dilation constriction, the different pathways and how those can be affected by different drugs, any maybe diseases or pathology which affects the way the pupils constrict. From a optical physics standpoint, you talk about pupils in terms of aperture sizes and how that affects the image in an optical system, whether it affects the brightness of an image or whether you've got any optical aberrations or diffraction effects that occur from it. And then from a visual function standpoint, you'll talk about maybe how the brain has to interpret a diffraction pattern caused by the pupil as it lands on the retina. And again, the pathways involved in that, and maybe how different neurological networks in your brain actually work in tandem with pupil dilation constriction in terms of adapting to dark light or bright light. So you would take all these three streams, optical physics, visual functions, biological systems, and you would bring them together to answer a question or questions on that specific topic, being pupils. Now, I'm not sure exactly what kind of questions we might get. It might be a case-based question where we've got an example of someone who has something wrong, or we're just given a premise and we have to explain using all those three principles, tying together our answer to the prompt on that premise. It'll be a bit more complicated than the exam I just had, the preclinical exam, because that exam was mainly just sort of showing your knowledge of the different techniques that we've been learning and the steps involved in executing those techniques. These next two exams, I've started approaching a little bit differently. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the learning objectives here, relevant only to the specific topics we've been given for the next two exams. I'm going to paste them into a Word document and then go through and literally answer those topics as if they're questions. And that way I should cover most of the content in written form that could come up in the exam. So at least I'll have some sort of prior exposure to it. Alright, for you guys, it's been a matter of seconds, whereas for me it's been closer to a week. I have a 3-week-long exam period. I start on the 1st and I end on the 19th or the 20th. Those last two exams, as suspected, they were definitely harder. The first of the two, the topics were a little bit easier. It was a little bit more straightforward. The issue there was that I ran out of time. However, this exam, the second exam, the topics were more complicated, but I felt like I wasn't as stressed for time for them. So I was able to answer everything within the allotted time. It's just the questions they gave us were a lot more complicated and you really had to think through and apply your knowledge to the questions. And the entire exam seemingly was focused more on visual functions than the other streams. So it was more of a complicated exam because a lot of the concepts were very abstract, but I'm very glad it's done. I'm very happy it's done. They had a few surprise sort of left hook questions, but I managed to answer everything. I think I did okay. Just need to hold on. It's another week and a half and I will see you guys when I'm actually going into those exams. Good morning, it is 9:15 and I am on my way to my first competency exam, this one for optical physics. I have 3 exams this week, all competencies. So my 3 hardest exams are done and now these are my 3 straightforward exams, which is just a pass, fail, grade. They don't actually contribute towards a marked score. They do, however, contribute to whether or not you pass the year. So if you don't pass these competencies, they mark you as not competent, as you would have guessed, and you have an opportunity to resit them. But if you don't pass any of the sittings, then you have to redo the year, which is not fun. I'm not too fearful of not passing these 3 exams. The only concern I have is that they take into account content not just from this semester, but also from last semester. So we'll see how much I remember. Fourth exam complete. Definitely feeling the burn of an excessive, monstrous exam period, but only 2 left. And for the first competency, that was actually okay. It was a little bit hard in terms of questions they asked. They asked quite a few questions from our seminar topics, which are actually student run, but I think it went well. Managed to cover everything, and I guess we'll find out how it goes in a couple of weeks' time. I also bought this. A history of Australian optometry. So I actually popped into the Australian College of Optometry, which isn't too far from Melbourne University. They have a lot of student placements and things there. And I walked in because I knew they had this book, and I said, hey, I'm interested in buying it. The first person thought, got no idea what he's talking about. Maybe I'll point him to one of the receptionists, they might be able to help out. Went up to the receptionist, said, hey, I'm looking for this book. I know you guys sell it. I'm looking to purchase it. Second person where I have no idea what you're talking about. Is there anyone you might have been in contact with? I have no idea what you're talking about. Third person, I don't know. Fourth person came down, said, yes, I know what you're talking about. They brought out the form to fill out to buy it, and they came out with the book. So it's quite funny that most people there had no idea what I was talking about, because I guess that was a very, very niche request for them, especially since most of what they provide are actually services, care services, eye care, stuff like that, more so than actually selling books. But managed to buy the book. I wanted to buy a paperback, but they only had a hard copy. So they sold me the hard copy at a heavily discounted price, which I'm very thankful for. And I've been reading it a little bit in the train. And it's all about just the history of how optometry started in Australia and where it is as a profession now. Maybe we'll see even a little bit of what it could be as a profession in the future, because I think that's very fascinating. I think that optometry 20 years ago was very different to optometry today. And I think in 20 years, optometry will also again be quite different. It's a very rapidly sort of advancing field. So exams done. I'm going to head home, going to relax for today, going to study tomorrow for my exam the day after, and then do the same thing as a cycle until all of my 6 exams are complete. I realized I just had 7 in my hands, I meant 6. So that's that. I'm on my way home and I will see you for my next exam. I won't record the day of me studying. It will literally just be me doing Anki. Not very exciting. Second competency exam today. 5th exam overall. Powering through, just making a quick breakfast. Probably gonna shower before I leave. And we'll see how it goes. Alright, I just had the exam in the building behind me. It is Wilson Hall. It was actually burnt down and then rebuilt. It used to be gorgeous and gothic and very impressive, and now, well, it's a box. And it took 3 architects to design that, which is a shame. But exam's done. It was way easier than I expected. Wasn't easy, but I feel really good about that. I feel like I knew just about everything, almost everything. And now I've got 1 exam left. This exam actually, the one I just had, has the most content, but it was actually quite fun. 1 exam left, last one. And this exam is a bit interesting because we didn't actually have any lectures on visual functions this semester. We only had practicals, seminars, things like that. All of our visual function lectures are from last semester. So it's going to be quite interesting to see how they structure that exam. And that, my dear friends, leads us to the end of my exam period and the end of my first year of the Doctor of Optometry. I appreciate that this is a bit of a longer video than usual, so thank you very much if you stuck around towards the end. I hope it was worth it, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you guys in the next video, and I look forward to OD2 and bringing you guys along with me.